You're listening to the Snob OS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Hey, this is Nika Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
Yo, this is Terrence Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
And welcome to the Snob OS Show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. I screwed up that intro, but it's okay. We are going to keep it going. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and for your continued support. We really appreciate it. If you want to get a little bit of extra content, you can head on over to patreon.com/snoboscast, where you can find out how to get access to the live show and get access to some exclusive content. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and jump into the show this week. We're going to kick it off with the Lowdown, where we talk all things Apple. All right, first up, iOS 17.3. It just feels that 17.2 was just released. Well, 17.3 is reportedly coming out next week. And if it holds true to Apple's typical rollout, we can likely expect it on Tuesday. What's that, the 23rd? So this came alongside a story we'll talk about next. The Apple Unity, the Black Unity collection was announced, in addition to Apple confirming that iOS 17.3 and iPad OS 17.3, and I'm sure probably watchOS, probably a tvOS update as well, is coming out. So the biggest thing I think we can look forward to in 17.3 is the new stolen device protection feature, which is going to help folks. I think we talked about this maybe a month or two ago, where this is going to help folks who have either lost their device or got their device stolen. This is supposed to really help with the way we manage our devices once they are either lost or stolen. One of the other features that I think are heavy into this is the something with a playlist with the Apple Music collaborative playlist.
Right.
Yeah. So I think those are probably the two biggest features that are coming out. I'm sure there's some other smaller things as well, but I think those the stolen device protection is the biggie.
Thing. Right.
Yeah. And I'm honestly thinking if they were planning to put that in 17.2 and it just wasn't ready, because the turnaround from 17.2 to 17.3 is a really small window for Apple. So that is coming out. I said the collaborative playlist. And I think those are probably the two biggest things. Like I said, there'll probably be a couple minor other features that are going to come out with this. Have you heard anything about any of the other features outside of the big two?
No, I haven't heard anything outside, but I think the reason why they're really trying to get this stolen device protection, because according to some of the stories that I've read, there has been a rise in public thefts in places like restaurants, particularly bars. Basically, the way it works now without the theft protection is a possible thief is casing, watching people interact with their phones. And what they're looking for is somebody who has recently unlocked their phone. If you unlock your phone, you can go into settings and say, lock after 1 minute, lock after 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever the case may be, or lock immediately if you're using Touch ID and Face ID, that sort of thing. Most people set it to like 5 minutes or something like that. So a possible thief is casing the joint, seeing somebody who has recently unlocked their phone. And that is the mark. That is the target. If they can get their phone fast enough before the phone locks, the person who stole it can quickly change the iPhone passcode, can quickly change the Apple ID password, Once they change those two things, that gives them a little bit more time to then go in and remove, find my iPhone, can go in there and change a bunch of things to make it harder for the person to
Who
either
owns the phone to be able to
right,
get
to
the phone.
owns their phone to retrieve their phone and or secure their other data, like save passwords. Now people are saving passwords, all kinds of Apple Pay, Apple Wallet, Apple
Mm-hmm.
Savings. All those things are now attached to the phone. That at the very least, steal my phone. That's fine. Don't steal my passwords. Don't steal my money.
Don't steal
Right.
my data.
Right. And don't steal my money. Right. So what this theft stolen device protection thing does is, even though you do unlock your phone and then somebody steals it, in order to access things like save passwords, in order to access things like Apple Wallet, Apple Pay, you have
Apple
to
ID.
Apple ID, you have to use Touch ID or Face ID, even if the phone's unlocked, right? So if the phone's unlocked, same way to how Apple implemented um, hidden photo albums,
Emails.
hidden
Photo
photo
apps.
albums. If I choose to hide a photo in a hidden photo album, and I'm in my photos, and I go to the hidden photos album, even if the phone's unlocked, it's requiring my Face ID or Touch ID in order to access those hidden photos. So Apple's pretty much taken that stance and applied it to the phone as a whole, as it relates to being able to change your Apple ID, being able to change your passcode, being able to access save passwords. You either with the passwords, you have to use your Touch ID or Face ID, even if the phone is unlocked, or with the thing as changing your Apple ID password or Apple ID email, that's on a delay. So
Mm-hmm.
even though I'm in the phone immediately, say I own the phone, right? And I go to just want to, on a whim, want to change my Apple ID password or change my Apple ID as a whole. It doesn't do it immediately. There's a delay, long enough of a delay to where if somebody does steal my phone, it's going to be a couple hours or maybe even a day. I don't know the exact time frame, but there's a delay as to when that change will take place, long enough to where if I'm the owner, I can not allow that change. I can, do all the things on my end to lock down the phone so it becomes less valuable to a possible thief.
Yeah, and as you said, especially the times that we are living in now, and the lack of, I guess, any type of morality, I think is the word I'm looking for, or any type of, concern for anybody else. We live in a very selfish society, and it's, if I want it, if it's going to make me better, then I'm going to take it. And we already know the resale value on Apple devices is very high. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things that is going to thwart a lot of
preventative measures.
People, yeah, it's very preventative. And so, criminals are very smart. I don't know if they can, criminal their way around this. It doesn't seem like it, but again, don't put anything past them. But it is it's definitely going to slow people down and
Another
block
hurdle.
them. Yeah. For them to do what they want to do, which is ultimately wipe the phone and resell it.
Right. And they may do that anyway, but at the very least, that your data is secure on the phone, even if somebody steals it. Like the phone, you don't want nobody to steal your phone, right?
Right.
You don't also want them to steal your data too.
Yeah.
So if you're going to take my phone, that's fine. Like you get carjacked, somebody comes up, give me your car. It's like, all right, I got my baby in the back. Let me just get my baby.
Let me get my baby.
The same thing with this. It's like, all right, you can have the phone. Just don't steal my stuff too. My passwords, my data, my wallet, my money, that sort of thing.
And it gives you the opportunity, if it does get stolen, to go and, cobble all of the things that you really care about and get those secured and get those kind of, stashed to the side so that when you do get a new phone, thieves won't have access to, like you said, the big things: Apple Wallet, Apple Pay, Apple Savings. So, all right. I think that was the only thing. I can't remember with the collaborative playlist. I think we talked about it. It's not what I think we originally thought it was, and I think you mentioned it before. You were thinking that You have a party, you get a playlist, people can go and add songs to that playlist. That's not what this is.
Something else?
I thought let's talk about I didn't think it was. I'm trying to read to get confirmation. It lets you team up with other people to create shared playlists. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
all right. So instead of being able to be like a virtual DJ and people can, add music, to be queued up to be played next or whatever, it's more of and I gave the example last time, is I have a travel playlist that every time my family gets in the car, it's a bunch of music that I like. It's a bunch of music that my wife likes. It's music that my kids are listening to, that's safe for everybody to listen to. Right.
Right.
Instead of me being the owner of that playlist and I have to find and add music to the playlist, I can create this collaborative, or I can convert this into a collaborative playlist and then share it with my family members. And at any time on their device, they can add songs to this playlist versus me having to do it,
And it updates for whoever has access to the playlist.
Right.
It updates on everybody's device.
Right.
So
exactly.
yeah. I could see where that could come in handy in numerous situations. So yeah. So it sounds like those are likely the two big things. We'll see next week when the release candidate becomes the released version. So we'll have to see, especially once it drops the detailed release notes from Apple, to see exactly what all is included outside of these two things that we mentioned, because those are, the two biggest things thus far. And as I mentioned before at the top of that story, it's we are mid-January. We just had Martin Luther King Day. So February is right around the corner. Shortest month of the year, even though we get an extra day this year because it's a leap year, Black History Month. So, we're going to be seeing a lot of things from a lot of people regarding Black history, Black pride, acknowledging Black folks and, what they do and what they contribute. And typical of Apple, this is nothing, outside of their purview. They unveiled their 2024 Black Unity collection for Apple Watch, for iPhone, and for iPad. And what this does, it includes new watch bands, new watch faces, and iOS lock screens. So you can get the sport band from the Apple Watch for the Apple Watch, $49 on the Apple website. And it's called a Unity Bloom. And essentially this collection is like abstract flowers. So that's what the band looks like. That's what the screens are going to look like. And Apple says, according to this article from 9 to 5 Mac, that the new design represents Pan-Africanism and symbolizes the harmony of multiple generations working together to address injustices. So the bands are available for the 40 millimeter and the 45 millimeter watches. And it comes in the standard small, large, and medium large lengths. And you can order them today, and they will be available in stores on the 23rd. So that's next Tuesday, which is when I presume the new iOS is going to drop as well.
Right. So you can't get the watch face until iOS 17.3. But
right.
You can order the band today, and it'll be available in stores on January 23rd.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I said which is likely the same day that the iOS is going to drop on that Tuesday. So you can have your band already, and as soon as we hit the 23rd, you can update your watch with the matching watch face as well.
Yeah, personally, I don't like them. Normally, every year for the past 3 years, I've bought the Black Unity band and put on the watch face and or the lock screen. This year, I don't like them. I don't like the way they look. It's just flowers on the watch face, and then the band is it's flowers. I don't like it. So
it's very abstract, and just a way to think of it for those who are not watching, who are listening. It's almost like splotches. If you think of flowers and you think of them in kind of like a
Rorschach test.
a like splashes, like drops of almost paint in like weird kind of, you could tell it's a flower, but then it's like, is it really a flower? And they have like these vibrant colors like purples and reds and greens and yellows. So yeah, we'll definitely put the link in the show notes to check it out. But it's definitely a lot different than some of the previous Black Unity stuff.
And they're using the old school rubber sport band. Since then, Apple has done the woven sport band that has the Velcro, versus this one uses the old school holes that you have to put the little watch band through for the different lengths. This one, since then, Apple has come out with the sport band that uses the Velcro, and they've also come out with the braided loop that just fits around your arm. They didn't do any of those, which are newer. They didn't do that for this year. They went like 2 generations back as far as the sport band is concerned, and I'm curious as to why they did that. But like I said, overall, I'm really not feeling this design. So for the month of February, I will use my old Black Unity watch bands, and I'll use the old watch face from last year or a year before.
And this article says it's black, obviously, with colorful flowers spread across the band, featuring red, green, and yellow hues. That's on the band. On the screen, they have a few more colors. And also, it's saying that each band is unique due to special unique layering process during manufacturing. So apparently, there are no two watch bands that are the same. They'll each be uniquely theirs. And the other feature is that the band pin features the words truth, power, solidarity that are etched onto them. So
that's nice.
So it sounds like you're like, nah, I'm good. But for those of you who are interested, definitely check it out. Again, like I said, it is available today for order. So you can head on over to apple.com or into your app store and go ahead and get those if you are so inclined. All right. The Apple Vision Pro is coming. By the time you hear this show, if you're not a Patreon supporter, the pre-sale is likely either over or the date is so far out that there's not really anything you can do as far as ordering it.
Have they reported that have tech journalists and tech websites reported that they're pushing delivery dates back as a result of a lot of pre-orders, or no?
No, well, the pre-orders don't start until Friday. So there's nothing out yet, with the exception of people are now have, your Apple influencers. They have been testing this out since, I think one person said since about June. So they tested it out in June, and they tested it out in, I think, November and in December as well. And this is the first time, meaning today, this particular person, Joanna Stern, I'm not sure who she is, but in this article from 9 to 5 Mac, she said this is her 4th demo of the Vision Pro. And she had one in June, one in November, and one in December. And this is the first time Apple is allowing them to take photos in the actual headset. So this particular article
photos of them wearing the headset.
Wearing it, yes, with it on and them actually using it. So, you have your usual suspects who get the exclusive access.
Yeah, and Joanna Stern is a big tech journalist over at the Wall Street Journal.
Is she Wall Street Journal?
Yeah, I think she's She's one
Yeah,
of the
she's Wall
premier
Street Journal.
people. She's one of the premier people that gets all of the special invites and all of
Yeah.
the early looks, especially as it pertains to Apple.
Yeah. I wasn't familiar with her. Sorry, I don't really read the Wall Street Journal. That's not really my jam. But her, several other people, of course, Miles Brownlee, and in this article, we'll link in the show notes. It's showing you what the headset looks like on people, and it makes sense that we are 2 weeks out, just over 2 weeks out from the actual get the product in hand. We are the week of the pre-order, so it makes sense they're now kind of flooding, all the socials, all the influencers, all of the journalists, actually using the device. So you can kind of see it, get a feel of it. They can actually, share their experience of using the device, what it feels like, what it looks like. So folks are out there using it and giving their thoughts on it. I guess, like I said, that makes sense. The biggest thing that I'm seeing from people is that the unit itself is pretty heavy, and they weren't expecting it to kind of be that heavy on
Well, what
their
I've
heads.
seen is when they first did the demo, they only had the braided loop or the solo knit band, which is the one that Apple announced alongside the Vision Pro. And now this time they've tried the dual loop band. So basically, the solo knit band is the one that just only goes around the back of your head. The dual loop band is the one that goes around the back of your head and has support over the top. So it takes some of the weight off the front of your face by relocating it to the top. And people are saying that's a little bit more comfortable than just the solo knit band. It just goes around the back of your head, and use the Vision Pro uses your nose for support, so it doesn't
Gotcha.
fall off your eyes, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the only thing that I can glean from this latest set of reviews is that it's a little bit more comfortable because there's more over the head support.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're watching the live recast, the image that I'm showing on the screen now is of the Wall Street Journal reporter Joanna Stern, and you can see, clearly what Terrence was saying. It has the strap over the head as well as the goggles going around the back. Now, it may take some of the weight off of, I guess, just having the single loop around the back, but it doesn't look very good,
It looks
aesthetically.
big. It looks huge.
It looks clunky.
Which
It doesn't look very sleek, which is what we're kind of used to from Apple.
right, and that's what you made a good point. We're not used to that from Apple. When we think of Apple, we think of sleek, we think of small, we think of portable, we think of ultra sexy, and these are what you would think of when you imagine VR goggles, with the exception of that display on the front that you can like project your eyes or project eyes so you can be at attention, versus other VR goggles like Oculus, HTC, some of the other ones is just like a white a white non-translucent, non-see-through pair of goggles on your eyes. Not to say the Apple Vision Pro are translucent or transparent, because it's just projecting your eyes so somebody's looking at you, they can see you're paying attention. You still can't see through.
Yeah.
But
It gives the appearance that you're conversational with the eyes that are on there. But it's interesting to note, of all of the people who got this demo, it looks like they're, at Apple headquarters or somewhere, because they're all in the same type of room. None of the devices have the eyes displayed. It looks almost like a iridescent, like, think of like Northern Lights, the Northern Lights.
Tinted windows. That's
Tinted windows with like, or the old school Windows player. When you use the Windows player and it has like the little screen where all the colors kind of flowing over each other. None of the people who are wearing them have the actual eyes on them. And I'm not sure if it's because you have to do some sort of setup for it to be yours,
Or Apple's not,
or
it ain't ready. Apple
or it's
may,
not ready
yeah, they may have to put that out in a,
in an
Vision Pro
update.
update.
Yeah, yeah. So again, we're getting closer and closer to the launch. So it'll be very interesting to see what's available on the device at release. I'm interested to see in the pre-order if they are going to say what's going to come on it, or if you're just going to have to wait until you get it on February 2nd to see what's actually available with the software. So I don't know. I got 2 days to decide if I'm
But
going to buy this or not.
you ain't made your decision right yet. Then you've already made your decision.
I don't know, baby. The concerns I had about the weight, because I have a small head, that was a concern. And then with the strap that's supposed to like alleviate that, it's not aesthetically pleasing. And the fact that none of these, like, I think it's what you mentioned, Terrence. I think that the eyes aren't ready, because if the eyes were ready, somebody on this list would have the eyes on. And out of about 5 or 6 people, 3, 4, about 5 or 6 people, no, 7, who are in this article, who posted on their socials, Engadget posted, The Verge, and, a couple of people, like I mentioned, Joanna Stern and Marcus Brownlee, those folks posted on their own social media. None of them have the eyes on it. So I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think that's personally. I don't think that's going to be for most people who have decided. I don't think not having that is going to be a big deterrent, simply because that use case probably is so few and far between for people who will actually use this. When I think of people who use a Vision Pro, they won't necessarily be in an office. They won't necessarily, or if they're working from home, they may be the only person working at home during the day. So the application using this in a work environment, if this is true spatial computing, they won't necessarily have that immediate need to show somebody that they are quote unquote paying attention while they have the headset on. So I don't think Apple's necessarily in a hurry.
Interesting. Like I said, it'll be interesting to see what actually comes on the hardware at release. And it could likely very well be one of those things where we've seen once, you ship it, it's like, oh, you need to do an update immediately. So I guess time will tell within the next couple of weeks of what it actually entails and what people will actually get. But I think for these folks who are doing the demos, this is probably the release candidate. It's probably what's going to go out. I don't see Apple being able to, depending I guess when they actually got to do this demo. This demo leads me to believe that they did it this month, because the person, I think it was Joanna, who said, she did one in June, did one in November, then one in December, that this is the most recent release. So this is probably what they're using is what's probably being shipped. And that kind of flows into the next story. Apple Vision Pro is getting its own app store. So it's already launched, which makes sense, because if it's launched now, the device doesn't come out until February 2nd. This is giving developers who've taken this time to build their app for the Vision Pro, gives them time to get it pushed to the App Store, get it approved, and get it up and running, to tweak any changes or things that need to be done for it to be ready on launch day. But it's a whole separate app store.
Which I said that Apple wasn't going to do. So I was wrong on that.
Yeah. And so it's out there, and I'm honestly, I'm not surprised that it's a separate app store, particularly because they were so adamant on calling it spatial computing, not AR, not VR. I think we talked about that too last week, where if you had AR or VR, or I think one was M something, or they had like some weird acronyms that I'd never heard of before. You can't use those when you're submitting your app to the App Store. So that sets to me that is one of those things where they're planning something additional to the Vision Pro, where having that in the App Store, there would need to be some sort of delineation. So the fact that they've gotten the App Store up and running, folks can push their apps into the store. It's happening. It's happening, and it looks like it's imminent. They've given us a date, and it looks like things are full steam ahead.
All right.
And I want to say I saw, I can't remember, I was trying to find it, that some big hurdle or some big approval that they needed, it got done as well. So it looks like everything is in lockstep. It's just now pre-order just needs to open on Friday, and you'll have your device in 2 weeks if you choose to do that. So Vision Pro, Apple's spatial computing device, not AR, not VR, but spatial computing device, is imminent, and we will get to see people's reactions in real time in the next couple of weeks. So that is going to wrap it up for the lowdown, unless you have something else you wanted to mention, Terrence.
Real quick. It seems as the Apple has updated its App Store guidelines that actually allows developers to link to third-party payments. So instead of purchasing an app, if the developer chooses, Apple will send you a message that says you're about to leave the app and go to an external website. Apple is not responsible for privacy or security of purchases made on their web. So if you, for instance, let's use Netflix for example. If you wanted to then pay for a subscription to Netflix, you'll get this message. It'll take you to an external website. You can then sign up and or set up payment options for subscriptions for Netflix. Apple is still requiring the developers to pay a commission of purchases made from the App Store, depending on who you are. If you are a part of the small business program, the commission is set at 12% or 27% for larger developers. The only issue with that is Apple doesn't automatically bill the developers for this commission. According to the story that I'm reading in Engadget, the companies are required, or developers are required, to submit monthly reports, even if they haven't processed any transactions, and that Apple has the right to audit their records. So if Nika is developing an app and she wants people to go to her website to put their credit card in so she can do the recurring payments every month, Nika has to send a report to Apple stating these are the people who signed up, these are the people who have set up a subscription, and based on those reports that she sends, Apple is either going to bill her or she has to send in the money. And if Apple thinks something ain't working, something ain't looking right, they have the ability to audit those records. So I just wanted to put that story out there.
So it sounds like, they are willing to open this up.
Well, they have to,
but
because of
but they're going to make you jump through some hoops to do it. They aren't going to make it easy for you. Well,
not necessarily jump through hoops, but the whole reason, and this is as a result of the Epic Games versus Apple in 2021, the Epic was trying to get out of paying that high commission.
That 30%.
That 30% that Apple wanted, that commanded by putting their apps in the App Store. Apple's thing was, we want to make sure we control every aspect of the download and purchase process because we're Apple. And two, we don't want App Store's developers to be able to link to anything that could take a customer outside of Apple the customer thinking that they're paying for and downloading the app that they clicked on, but app developer get funny with it and send them someplace else and they don't deliver. Apple can't control if a developer does something funny. So you as the consumer, you can't blame Apple. You got to go to that third party developer. Apple is trying, according to Apple, they are trying to mitigate that and say, look, you got to put all that stuff in Apple so we can control that. Now, of course, the benefit of
if
that
you choose to not do that,
right. Of course, the benefit for Apple is they get 30%. These developers and these companies was like, no, we want to be able to control the process because, you know, they're our customers. They're just using your platform as a conduit, you know, and then also we ain't trying to pay that 30%. So Apple was like, well, all right, cool. We gonna link to your whatever to where you can control the payments. You can have the credit cards on file, whatever. But don't think for a second you're gonna get out of paying us our money. We gonna want our money
because you're still going to get they still have to pay a fee, right? Even if they use this external link,
but it's
just
automatic.
not 30%.
It don't come off the top. Apple took the commission off the top and then sent the payments to the developers. Now it works in reverse.
Okay.
The developer gets some money off the top and then they have to send in the commission to Apple per these reports that they're requiring.
So it's 12. I'm looking in the article. The commission is set at 12% for developers who are part of
right
for the small business program,
right,
and 27% for large developers.
Right.
So, I mean, you're saving a few percent, but I think the biggest thing is they have to send it back to Apple. Apple doesn't take it first.
Right. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be some wiggle room. There will be some giant developers like a Netflix that may be able to negotiate that 27% down, depending on their relationship with Apple, depending on how bad Apple feels like they need the app need the popularity of that app, whatever the case may be. So there may be some companies that may, get around this, but it won't be automatic. They're going to have to put in, this is where the extra hurdles jump in for the third party developers. They're going to have to work with Apple to figure out if they can get around this 12 or 27% versus, like I said before, which is a kind of like I don't want to say a win, but it's almost like a conciliatory prize because it's not 30% off the top, right? They can kind of work around that, So I guess that's a win, I suppose.
Yeah. And I guess since we're talking a little bit of Epic versus Apple, you mentioned this was one of the things that came out of that lawsuit. So there were, I believe, 10 issues that it basically boiled down to between Apple and Epic. Apple won 9 of those 10, right? So the one that they did win is this app developer third party thing. Well, now Apple is saying, hey, so we had 10 things. Y'all won 1, we won 9. So you should be responsible for 90% of our legal bill. So they are now requesting a $73 million to be paid back to Apple for their legal fees because technically Apple won. So you get to keep, the legal aspects that you won, that one thing you won, but run us our $73 million out of the 81 million that we spent trying this.
Which is not a out of the blue request. There have been many court cases to where the person who won sued for, in their suit or in their countersuit, they included court fees. Now the question is did Apple include that in the original suit or the original countersuit, or is this something that they're trying to tack on after the fact? If it was included in the original suit, they may have a better chance versus it's being tacked on in the end. Don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how that's going to work, but it sounds like Apple's being petty, but we'll see if that actually works. Because like I said, if this is after the fact, they're trying to tax on this, or was this included in the original suit? Like if we win, we are asking for damages or whatever and court costs.
So what Apple is using as the basis for their claim is clause 10 of the Apple Developer Program License, which basically says developers agree to indemnify Apple, which is basically pay them, against legal expenses incurred in responding to a breach of the agreement. So Apple is saying in our terms of agreements, it says if you lose, you have to pay our fees. So technically, we won, but you won on one. So now you have to pay us
a large portion.
This 90% because the total Apple says it spent 82, almost 83 million defending itself during the case. And it then deducts 10% as Epic prevailed on one of 10 counts, thus $73,404,326.
Hope it was worth it.
Like their money.
Hope it was worth it.
Right. So, yeah, we'll see if Epic does pay. Well, hold on. Let me read a little further. Epic does not dispute that it broke the agreement and will pay the damages as a result, though the company may dispute the amount. How you gonna? They said it cost $81 million. Pay these people their money. Because you acknowledge
we are in a society, if just Western society, if just American culture, fight everything, admit to nothing.
But they admitted it.
Well, they're not admitting to the amount.
Yeah, they're not admitting to amount. They admitted that they broke the agreement.
Right.
So Apple is saying, well, it's only fair. You won 1 of 10. We won of 9 of 10. Our fees. This is our breakdown. And like you said, Apple's going to be like, well, technically. So they'll probably land somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. If Apple holds to it. I don't know if they will. I don't know. Apple, because they lost on this one count, they may just really try and stick it to the man, so to speak, to make it a little bit more difficult for them. And let's be honest, in the grand scheme of things, $81 million is nothing to Apple. But I think it's the principle.
Right. That
they won on everything except for one. And now they had to make all these changes to, satisfy, these folks. So it'll be interesting to see if they get all of their $73 million or if they get a fraction of it. But yeah, so it's out there and we'll see. That is going to wrap up the lowdown. We're going to head on over to Second String where we talk all other tech. So last week we talked about what we thought the future would be and the things that we expected we should have as it relates to what we were promised in our youth of what the future would hold. Well, we may be a little bit closer to what our past selves thought our future selves would be using. So, Wing is a company that is owned by Alphabet, and it's basically a drone delivery service. Well, in the past, most drone deliveries have been very small sizes. They can't have a huge payload. Well, with this latest drone, they can have a payload up to 5 pounds, which is twice as much as the company Wing's previous flagship drone. So it can go up to 65 miles an hour. So that's about the speed of an Amazon truck. It has an onboard battery and it allows for a 12-mile round trip. So basically you can't be further than 6 miles in one direction for where this thing would have to go. So, it appears that the company is one of the things they're trying to grow the payload size. But as of right now, 5 pounds at 65 miles an hour in a 12-mile round trip distance. Does that appease any of what your past self thought your future self would be using?
No. I'm curious as to, are they delivering this to residential residents in residential neighborhoods and residential areas, or is this like a, not necessarily a last mile thing? Is the packages come into a warehouse,
Mm-hmm.
somebody, the logistics or whatever, sorts out all the packages, and the last mile is it goes from the warehouse to the customer's door? Is
Mm-hmm.
this that, or is this like a business to business type thing? If a hospital or urgent care or whatever the case may be needs a particular medical product, then they can reach out to a Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, whatever the case may be, and these drones will deliver those products from the medical company or the medical warehouse to a commercial thing like a hospital
Mm-hmm.
or an urgent care, or are they delivering these things to my house? Because if it's the former, I'm sorry, if it's the latter, and they're delivering this to my house, I can see all kind of problems with this:
Mm-hmm.
privacy, people interfering with these things, you know, me saying I have a big enough, as a resident, me saying I have a big enough, drop off location, and I don't,
Mm-hmm.
and the drone drops it on my roof. Now I got to climb on the roof and get it, or somebody pointing lasers at these things, messing with the trajectory or shooting them down, because you know how people are, American guns. I can see a lot of problems with this dropping off in residential, but I see if it makes sense, if there is like a life, even if it's like a life-saving thing, like they need to get an organ to a
Mm-hmm.
hospital for an emergency surgery, and they need this thing to take it from the warehouse or the warehouse that this organ is stored, and they need to get it to the hospital. I can see this for that, and
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. But anything else is like, I don't think we're ready for residential drone delivery.
So it's a little bit interesting for this article because Adam Woodworth, who is the CEO of Wing, he's basically saying, they're going to streamline, deliveries, largest orders. And he gave an example of a customer ordering last minute ingredients for pasta. So that's the example that the CEO gave.
So it sounds like it's
However, yeah. So, however, later in the article, it gets a little fuzzy because it talks about different use case scenarios. And the CEO, again, likens this to, standard, fleet type deliveries. And at the end of the article, it says that this company Wing, it's currently operating in the Dallas Fort Worth area. It also, works in Australia, Finland, and Ireland, and it's teamed up with retailers like Walgreens and Walmart to offer deliveries. So it doesn't seem, based on this article, to be a clear direction of what this is actually going to be for. Because, at the top of the article, they talk about, most pizzas are under 5 pounds, and he's talking about, ordering and dropping off last minute ingredients. But then at the end of the article, it's talking about Walgreens and Walmart. So it's not very clear as to what this is going to be used for. And I think that's one of the things where it's frustrating, but it's also, you have a little bit of hope in it that it can be used for commercial use as well as, the standard everyday person. But it doesn't seem to me as if they have a clear direction on what the expectation is
And it may
for
not.
this.
It may
Yeah.
just be, we are the innovators. We're going to put this thing together and let the culture or let society tell us how they want these things to operate in our
Mm-hmm.
environment, versus the company pushing a answer or a solution out, and we have to adjust to this new way of getting deliveries, right? So maybe this
Yeah.
is just saying, for example, pizzas and pasta, for
Mm-hmm.
example, Xboxes and PlayStations and stuff like that. That's just an
Mm-hmm.
example. But technically, logistically, actually speaking, we're definitely not ready for something like this. But that's
Yeah.
not necessarily a knock on the company.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think they are going in the right direction. What I can see being a potential issue as this type of technology progresses, just the traffic of it all, of managing, hundreds of drones in the sky, dropping off, picking up, dropping off, picking up. I can see logistics behind that, being insane. It's okay now that it's so few, but once this goes, ultimately mainstream, which eventually will, they'll figure out this process to make it work. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think, we're getting bigger size deliveries. These batteries and these distances, that's going to be interesting. But, everything's incremental. And I think, slowly but surely is getting there. And I truly hope that they meaning the people that are creating this technology, are, using some foresight and looking down the road to see how will this actually be implemented in a larger scale in our actual society, and not just in these very strict boundaries and confines. So only time will tell, I think, with that. That is going to wrap it up for Second String. We're going to head on over into For the Culture, where we talk about culturally relevant things that we care about or we want to talk about, whether it be in social media, whether it be in society, or a combination of both. So this week, I know, Terrence, you're not a huge award show watcher.
That would be an understatement.
But on this past Monday, the Emmys were held. And Emmys celebrate television and movies. And it is the E in the EGOT, which is, achieving 4 awards, the Emmy, the Grammy, Oscar, and Tony. That means you are the pinnacle of entertainment if you can achieve an award in all 3 of those. So the Emmy is the first one. And this year, it's kind of good, but then kind of like, really? So this year, the Emmys were pretty black. And, not just with the host, who was Anthony Anderson, not with just some of the winners, but the production team. The executive production team was headed by 3 black people. There was a black man and 2 black women who basically ran the whole production of the show. So that's kind of on the, I guess, the nuts and bolts side of the award show. And speaking of the actual winners, Quinta Brunson won Best Leading Actress in a Comedy. The first time that a black actress has won this in 42 years. The first person and the only person prior to Quinta was, her name just completely slipped my mind, from the Jeffersons. Mm-hmm. Oh God, her head.
Wheezy.
Wheezy the character, but the person who played Wheezy, her name is just really, it just went out the window. I'm sorry, girl. I'll try and find it. Niecy Nash won for Dahmer, which had some controversy. Huh? Isabel Stanford.
Sanford.
Sanford. Okay, perfect. Give you your props, girl. And who was it? Niecy Nash won for Dahmer, which had some controversy because, they keep remaking Jeffrey Dahmer's story, and it's giving him more credit than acknowledging the people that he killed. Who was it? Ayo Edebiri. She won for Best Supporting. The Bear, which is great. I love Quinta's show, Abbott Elementary, and I love The Bear as well. Who else? Keke Palmer. This is Keke. These people that I'm going to mention, they won in the creative awards prior to this. So Keke Palmer won for game show host, which is the first time for a black woman. I'm not sure if it's ever, but a really long time. Storm Reed won for a guest appearance. The Last of Us. I really love that show as well on HBO. Jasmine Guy won. Whitley Gilbert from A Different World. She won her first Emmy as well. And we all know how long Jasmine Guy has been in the industry. Additionally, Trevor Noah won an Emmy for The Daily Show. RuPaul won for Drag Race. And, in addition to the Black people, we'll, shout out some of the other non-Black people of color. Ali Wong, who is Asian, she won for lead actress for Beef, I think, which is on Netflix. And there was another guy, I can't remember his name, who's an Asian guy as well, who won. So all that to say, Black and brown people winning, yay, that's great. We celebrate them because their work is fantastic. We appreciate it. We honor it. At the same time, if we're still having firsts, our first in 3, 4, 5 decades, is it really a plus?
It is a plus if this is something that you work for and work towards, which I'm assuming most of these actors and actresses that you mentioned do work hard to be acknowledged for their hard work. So I guess that is a win. It is surprising, to say the least, that it has taken this long for it to be normalized, and it may still not even be normalized. It may just be coincidence that all of these Black and brown people are doing all these dope things at the same time this year, so normalized, is, we expect it. It is a part of the award season that we see all of these Black and brown people doing all these dope things, right? But it's not normalized yet. I think we as people who are demanding more diversity as it comes to awards, we are looking for that normalty, if that's even a word. So I think that's what we're waiting on. And that's why when we find out this is the first person to do it in these many years, this is the first person ever to win in this category, we're kind of taken aback because we know who these people are and we know all the work that they're doing. And it's not something, some of these people, this is the first time, but there's some of these people who've been in the industry for years and years and years and years and years, and you're just now giving them the recognition, so I think we're waiting for that normalcy. That's a better word. We're waiting for the normalcy to where this isn't a first. But at the same time, I can totally understand, my mindset is screw them. We don't need their acknowledgement at all. But I'm not an actor that's worked 20 some odd years in the game. And this is the pinnacle of my profession, to win an Emmy, an Oscar, a Tony, a Grammy, or whatever the case may be. So I can't put my feelings on, them who are working hard in these fields, and I ain't. It's easy for me to say, why are you worried about what these people who really don't want you to be here, what they think about you in the form of an award? Why you care? But I ain't them, right. So I can't put that on them. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I think, while we want to see them get recognized, I think we're still waiting on that normalcy, which ain't quite there yet.
Yeah. And I will have to say, one of the benefits of having a Black production team, you get some different elements. So one of the themes of the night is they pay tribute to shows from previous years. So Marla Gibbs presented an award. We know her from 227. Carol Burnett was on there. The lady from Dynasty, Alexis, was on there. The cast from Ally Mobile did a skit, and they presented an award. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia cast did a presentation of an award. But I think the one that caught a lot of, especially the Black communities, was they had the entire Martin cast do a skit and present an award. And with Martin, of course, it was Pam, Gina, Cole, and Martin. Of course, Tommy has since left this earth. Yeah, rest in peace to Tommy. And it was interesting. They had the whole setup of Martin's living room. That's how the skit kicked off. And, it was one of those things where they were like, well, Cole thought, his part of the bit was, oh, we finally get an Emmy. So I got my Emmy speech. And it was like, well, and they basically rattle off, we had the highest this, we were the longest running this, we had this one this, and we didn't get no Emmy. So it was one of those things where they were kind of like saying, yeah, we're glad to
Leaning
be
into it.
here.
Yeah.
We appreciate your giving us love this far down the line, but where was our award, back then? And if you think from the time that Quinta won to the last time Isabel Sanford won, in between those 42 years, the amount of shows, you got Living Single, you got Martin, you got Girlfriends, you got Insecure, you got Black, you have all of these amazing shows that apparently there was no lead actress,
female actress
who fit the bill to take that award over the course of 42 years. So it's just really, it just plays into the fact that, yes, we want to honor them. We want to celebrate them because they make great art. We consume it. We enjoy it. And for those people, those women, those men to finally get the recognition that they deserve for their work, we still can't quite put behind us the gap and the deficiency, because a win every 42 years is not good. And the only difference is, I think Sheryl Lee Ralph won Best Supporting in a Comedy last year. Ayo won it this year. So it was like 2 back-to-back. But prior to Sheryl Lee Ralph winning, it was a 35-year gap. And Jackie Harris from 227 was the last person to win. So when you talk about that consistency, okay, we had Sheryl Lee Ralph, we had Ayo this year. So that tells me it shouldn't take another 35 years before, someone else wins.
All right. Don't get your hopes up. Same thing with the DEI is starting to go away, and these companies are off that now. Don't be surprised. But
I honestly am not surprised, but I can be hopeful. So definitely wanted to bring that up and definitely highlight all of those amazing entertainers, especially coming off of the actor strike, the writer strike, the director strike, all of that stuff that was going on for to get back into the groove of things and to start seeing people win things, that I actually watch, and people that I actually, care about. It's always in that sense, it's definitely a positive. And in that sense, it's definitely, you want to celebrate that. It's just, now let's keep it going. You see that there is talent among the spectrum of people that act. So let's continue to give the accolades and the warranted accolades to those individuals who most certainly earn it. So I think the Grammys are coming up next month, so we'll see how that turns out. But and it could go either way. So we're gonna take the win and the joy that we got from all these amazing people winning at the Emmys on Monday, and just continue to hope for the best and continue to watch great television or movies, regardless of whether we get the accolades or not. I just hope that this translates into people getting paid what they deserve for their craft and their work. So I'll leave it there. So the hookup for our tech tip of the week, Brother Tech, what do we have?
I think I've kind of touched on this before, but with different methods. If you need to charge your phone faster, like you've only got 20 minutes to charge your phone and it is dangerously low, some of the previous things that I've mentioned is turning on airplane mode, closing apps, things of that nature. But I've discovered some newer ways to do it. So if you add all these things together, you should be able to charge your phone twice as fast, if not faster, if you're in a pinch, right? I wouldn't suggest doing this all the time. I think your video faded out. Can you still hear me, Nika? Okay, so all right. I'm gonna keep going. So like I mentioned, if you do all of these things in concert, you should be able to charge your phone faster. And some of the two of the things that I suggest this week is the low power mode. Low power mode is typically used for if your phone is low on power and you want to conserve as much battery as possible, you turn on low power mode so your battery doesn't drain from maybe 20% down to 5 when you really, really need it. But if you turn on low power mode while you're charging your phone, it should charge faster. And then another thing to keep in mind is temperature. If your phone is out in the sun and you're trying to charge it and the sun's rays are beating on the phone and the phone temperature's hot, it's not going to charge as fast. Alternatively, if it's in a cold environment, if your house is, super cold, or if you're just outside charging it and it's cold, that temperature will affect your charging speed. So you want to make sure it's not too hot, make sure it's not too cold while you charge your phone up, and it'll charge actually faster. So if you add all those things up, turn it on airplane mode. And what airplane mode is, it stops your phone from sending and receiving anything to where your phone is not working as hard, and the only thing it's doing is charging. So that'll speed it up. And then, like I mentioned, these two things, turning on low power mode and making sure it's an optimal temperature. You do all those things together, you'll be able to charge your phone twice as fast versus just normally just charging up your phone, whatever. So that is my hookup for the week. If you need to charge your phone up faster, you definitely need to incorporate some of these steps. Again, I wouldn't make a practice of this, but only if you're in a jam. Like if you need to go somewhere within 20 minutes and you're at 5%, you do all these things up together, you may be able to get it up to maybe 60, 70% in, 10 or 20 minutes, as opposed to waiting that same amount of time and only getting 30%.
Cool. Please take that under advisement if you need to charge your phone relatively quickly. That's going to wrap it up for this week. We definitely want to thank you for tuning in. Brother Tech, where can the people find you?
Sure, you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva everywhere else. So that's going to wrap it up. So if you want to connect, comment, share, and support our show, you can head on over to snobblewestcast.com to get all of the details. We'll see you back here next week.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.